Okay, so now we're in the first passage of this reading test. It's going to be a piece of literature, fiction, by Jane Austen entitled Emma, and it was published more than 100 years ago. So let's see what Jane wants us to know about Emma. Okay, so Emma was, let's see, a handsome, clever, rich, comfortable home, happy disposition, seemed to unite some of the best blessings of existence and lived nearly 21 years in life with very little to distress or vex her. Okay, she, again Emma, right, was the youngest of the two daughters of a most affectionate, indulgent father. Okay, so a little bit about her father. Had a consequence of her sister's marriage, been mistress of his house for a very early period. Her mother died, it looks like, and too long ago for her to even remember her, so it didn't play too much of an impact in her life. She had been placed with a governess who took over the motherly duties, and that governess was Miss Taylor. So Jane Austen wants us to know about Miss Taylor, and she was less of a governess, more of a friend, it looks like. And between them, them. So them is Miss Taylor and Emma. So now there's a big connection between these two. Sounds like Miss Taylor's going to be a big part of this. And she is like a sister to her. Okay, so that's pretty strong. Mildness of her temper hardly allowed her to impose any restraint. The shadow of her authority being now long passed away, they had been living together as friends, mutually attached. Emma doing just what she liked. Okay, so now we know that Miss Taylor doesn't really have an impact. It looks like her judgment is highly esteemed, but that's it. Okay, so now we get into the real story here. So I'm going to star this because it says the real evils of Emma's situation is rather, well, she just gets too much her own way. What else? And she thinks a little too well of herself. Okay, so these were the disadvantages which threatened her many enjoyments, and they were unperceived until what? Well, it looks like sorrow came into her life, and not in the form of any disagreeable consciousness. Miss Taylor married. Okay, so her sister, the one that she grew up with, got married. It was Miss Taylor's loss which first brought grief. It was on the wedding day of her beloved friend. Mournful thoughts of any continuance, the wedding over and the bride people gone, her father and herself left dying together, the no prospect of a third to cheer the long evening. Okay, she sat and thought she had lost her friend. Okay, again, loss, sorrow, this big theme going on there. Next paragraph. The event had promise of happiness for her friend, Mr. Weston, so he must be the suitor. And she doesn't seem to think too highly of her, does she? No, I guess not. Okay, so she says that he's a man of unexceptional character, easy fortune, suitable age, pleasant manners, and there was some satisfaction in considering what self-denying, generous friendship she had. Okay, the want for Miss Taylor would be felt every hour of every day. Wow, that's incredible. So it's this really big loss she must be experiencing right now. She recalled her past kindness, playing with her, devoted all her powers of attachment, nursed her through illness. Okay, so these are just, really clear examples of the relationship that they had together. So the author is really building for us this foundation for us to understand how deep this tie was between them. And it goes on, which should follow Isabella's marriage. Isabella. Okay, Isabella must be Miss Taylor. All right. And yet, dearer, tenderer recollection had been a friend and companion such as few possessed, intelligent, well-informed, useful, gentle. Wow, lots of great words to describe her. And knew her every thoughts, speak her every thoughts. Now, how could she bear this change? Okay, it was true that her friend was gone only half a mile. That's pretty close. But it was much different. She was now, Mrs. Weston. Okay, so the author decides to change the name to really show the difference between now and then. So Miss Taylor was part of the house, whereas Mrs. Weston was not. So now she suffered from intellectual solitude. Again, this loneliness. She had her father, it looks like, but he was no companion for her. He could not meet her in conversation, rational, or playful. Okay. So the evils had to do with the age. And the evil, not really evil, but the reason why the father was not a very good companion was because of looks like his age, and not just because he was old. It looks like he was inactive. So mind and body. Doesn't sound like he thought too deeply about things, and she was lonely.